I call this Altoona City Council meeting to order Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 6 p.m. We'll now have a moment of silent prayer. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Butterbaugh.
Here.
Councilman Kashadi will be here very shortly. Councilman Carper.
Here.
Councilman Ickes.
Here.
Councilwoman Jordan. Absent. Councilman Kelly.
Here.
Mayor Pacifico.
Here. We have a presentation on the agenda tonight. We're going to recognize Pennsylvania National Guard Command Sergeant Major retired Harry Buchanan III. And Councilman Ickes is going to make that presentation.
At this time, I'd like to ask retired Command Sergeant Major Buchanan and Mayor Pacifico to join me at the podium, please. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow members of council. It's my sincere privilege to recognize the career and service of Command Sergeant Major Harry Jim Buchanan this evening. As you may recall from the news in early December, Command Sergeant Major Buchanan retired with 41 years of service with the Pennsylvania National Guard. Jim was raised in Altoona, and his family has an extensive history of military service. In 1980, shortly after commencement from Altoona High, Jim joined the Pennsylvania National Guard. In 1981, Jim married his wife, Tammy. Jim worked as an infantryman from the beginning to the end of his military career, serving as a guardsman, working 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, excluding deployments, for most of his career. For the last 4 years, Jim was an active guardsman, working full-time for the Pennsylvania National Guard as the senior enlisted leader, an advisory position to the Adjutant General, in which Jim represented the enlisted members of the Pennsylvania Army and Air National Guard. Jim spoke about his tenure as the senior enlisted leader, saying, quote, "My mission was, what can I do for my soldiers and airmen?" Jim's service includes 2 separate deployments overseas, one to Kosovo and one to Iraq, spanning 18 months each. He was also deployed during 2005 for the relief efforts from Hurricane Katrina. During his 40-plus year career, Jim has been honored with many medals and awards commending his service to our country. Today, Jim resides in Altoona, Pennsylvania with his lovely wife, Tammy, whom, for the record, hasn't aged an hour since Mrs. McLaughlin's 5th grade class at Baker Elementary. Jim looks forward to enjoying his retirement with his family that he loves so dearly, and we as members of Altoona City Council recognize him for his service to our great nation, and we wish he and his family all of God's blessings. Jim, I'm presenting to you this evening the railroad spiked with the city of Altoona, congratulating you on your service to our city. Jim, congratulations to you.
Thank you. Jim, at this time, I'd like to read and present to you this proclamation on behalf of the city of Altoona. Whereas City Council in the City of Altoona takes great pleasure in honoring the distinguished career of Command Sergeant Major Harry Jim Buchanan III, who retired from the Pennsylvania National Guard in November of 2020 upon completing an impressive 41 years of service. And whereas, proud to call him our own, as a lifelong resident of Altoona, this senior enlisted leader is an extraordinary example of military service, who exhibited exceptional performance and professionalism, and who will continue to make a significant impact on the Pennsylvania National Guard for many years to come. And whereas Command Sergeant Major Buchanan joined the Guard in 1980 and remained an infantryman throughout his entire career, serving traditionally for the majority of those years and active for his last 4 years prior to retirement, always making great sacrifices with a mission of ensuring his troops were always taken into consideration at all levels, as they were always his top priority. And whereas Command Sergeant Major Buchanan has completed numerous specialized military training courses and programs throughout his career, including the United States Army Sergeant Major Academy, participated in Operation Iraqi Freedom in K4 5 Alpha Kosovo with the 2nd 112 Infantry Regiment, and is the recipient of numerous notable awards and decorations. And whereas it is with great pride that we recognize Command Sergeant Major Buchanan as a citizen of the City of Altoona. Now therefore, I, Matthew Pacifico, Mayor of the City of Altoona, Pennsylvania, do hereby issue this proclamation on this 11th day of January 2021 in observance of the retirement of Command Sergeant Major Harry Jim Buchanan III for his accomplishments, selfless service, and exceptional leadership, and in recognition of his service to the United States and to the City of Altoona. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
If you want to, you don't have to.
I think I can take this off while I'm standing here. You know, when Jesse asked me to come up to get awarded this, I said to him one thing, do I have to speak? And he said, yeah, you got 25 minutes, so strap in, here we go. All right? Hey, no, just real quick, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, thank you, all of you, for what you do for this city. I know you, like me, with my military career, have one thing in mind, and that's our citizens of the City of Altoona. So I want to thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it, and keep up the good work, all right? Mayor, watch out, I'm coming after your job, but I don't have anything to do now. But I got to just say, from growing up in Altoona my whole entire life, kindergarten, born and raised here, kindergarten, I went to Fairview School, which is now an apartment building. I went to Key School, which is now an apartment building. And now I went to Altoona, then I went out to Altoona, which is now vacant because of the COVID. So I don't know if that's my bad luck or what's going on here, but we need to change some things with that. Hey, I just want to say again, you know, thank you. I love this city. I had opportunities to move other places and go other places, but I didn't want to do it. I married my lovely wife, and yeah, she hasn't aged, and now you made it bad for me when I go home because she's going to rub it in. But I raised 2 kids here. They both played sports at Altoona High, went on to play sports at college. I have 4 lovely grandkids that are coming up through this education program here in the city. I worked for McAleer's Plumbing for 40 years, so I know probably 3/4 of the houses in this city. So I've been around here, and I continue to want to be around, and I want to continue to find a way to continue to serve Altoona because I love it. With all that being said, I got to thank everybody. Without, I say this to everybody that I deal with, without supporting staff, I would have never been a leader. And without supporting staff, you guys wouldn't be where you're at today either. So I tell them when they go home from their mission that they're on, whether they're doing COVID-19 missions, whether they're doing Protect PA, whether they're in Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, Poland, no matter where we're at, which we're all over the country, and I had the opportunity to visit them, no matter where we're at, I tell them one thing, when you get home, and I'm asking you to do this too, when you get home, make sure you hug and kiss your better half. Because without them being at home doing what they're doing while we're doing what we're doing, we would not be successful. You got to keep that in the back of your mind. My wife, through 2.5 deployments, took care of the garbage, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow, the whole 9 yards when I wasn't there. All right, so I have to thank her. Without her, I wouldn't be here. And now she tells me, okay, now it's her turn. I got to do all that stuff at home, which, okay, I'm even cooking and doing the laundry now. But no, I'm only kidding. But once again, thank you very much. I hate to take up all your time, but I just can't tell you how much I appreciate this. This is quite an honor. Never as a kid in kindergarten at Fairview would I ever thought I'd be standing up here today in front of this council, in front of the mayor, and thanking them for what they've done. So please, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move into the public comment, I would like to take this time now to make the nominations for the boards, authorities, and commissions that we will be voting on later in the resolutions. Linda, are you ready? Okay, for the Altoona Water Authority, Barbara Kuhlman. For the Altoona Housing Authority, Chris Kerwin. Altoona Parking Authority, Colin Reinhardt. Altoona Planning Commission, Dave Albright, Chuck Myers, and Larry Bellato to fill the unexpired seat there. For the Redevelopment Authority, Richard Fury Jr. AMED Authority, Monica Klatt, who is the UPMC appointment. Amtran Authority, Scott Cessna. Code Appeals Board, Larry Field and James Patopa. Electrical and Plumbing Examiners Board, Joe Eccles. Civil Service Board, Don Belzy and Ted Beam. And the Zoning Hearing Board, Horace McAnoof. And now at this time, we will open up the floor to public comment. The number to dial will be displayed on the screen. When prompted, please give your name and address for the record, and we ask that you please keep your comments to under 5 minutes.
Go ahead and state your name and address.
Patrick Miller, 209 North 6th Avenue, President of Altoona Firefighters, Local 299.
Go ahead, Patrick.
First, I want to start out by thanking Command Sergeant Major Jim Buchanan for his service to our country. It's greatly appreciated and all the sacrifices you have made, sir. Mayor Pacifico and council members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. 2020 was a troubling time for everyone, not only in the city of Altoona, but across the country due to COVID-19. On June 20th, it was announced that Blair County officials would receive $11 million in COVID-19 federal CARES Act funding. With COVID-19 impacting families and businesses in the city, it was presented that the city of Altoona would have up to a $500,000 loss of tax revenue due to COVID-19 shutdowns, according to City Manager Decker in the September 9th Altoona Mirror article. In the same article, it stated that Decker plans to recommend that council not apply for any of the Blair County's $11 million in CARES Act funding, with Decker indicating the city had only $50,000 in COVID-19 costs this far. Moreover, the county's application process appears complicated, as though whoever put it together for Blair took a page out of the federal government. Commissioner Erb stated in the same article, the application process actually isn't all that complicated. It is much like the ones used by other counties. On December 10th, the Altoona Mirror ran an article, Blair Allocates CARES Funds. In this article, it gave a list of 8 local governments or agencies that would collectively receive as much as $2.23 million to offset the COVID-19 expenditures. The top 3 were as follows: AMED $1.5 million, Logan Township $622,280, Greenfield Township $73,604. After reading this article, I was simply baffled at the fact the city of Altoona did not apply for any of the CARES Act funding, as we are the largest local government in Blair County with the most employees. I received to print out a copy of the grant application and guidelines, which the application consists of 4 pages. Page 1, general information, municipality request amount, and description of eligible expenses. Page 2, describe activities which grant funds will be used and how they will help recover and respond to COVID-19. With the remainder of page 2 and 3, had line item budget boxes, and proposed use of funds with page 4 duplication of benefits prior systems. It finishes with the signature of the authorized official and date. On December 17th, I filed a right-to-know request with the County of Blair requesting the following information: a breakdown of Logan Township's $622,000 grant and a copy of Logan Township's application. On January 7th, I received my right-to-know request for Logan Township in the amount of $622,280. In the impact description, the township has seen a large revenue deficit due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Through June 2020, our revenues are down over $276,000. Since we are considered essential by the state, we have had our full payroll costs for year to date. Since we receive a lot of revenue from business privilege and mercantile tax that we receive in 2021 for the year 2020, that will be significantly impacted because our retail base is closed or under further restrictions. Under the description of activities which grants will be used, it states, if we are fortunate enough to be awarded a grant from Blair County for our COVID-19 related expenses, they will be used to offset the expenses we have incurred. Even though some expenses may get reimbursed by this grant, the township will still have a substantial loss of revenue in 2020 as well as 2021. We are asking for partial reimbursement of police department wages. The reimbursement of police wages would really help the township since we project our revenues to be approximately a minimum of $400,000 to $500,000 less than budgeted. Any money we receive from the county would be greatly appreciated and would help with the expenses and cash flow. Under the budget items asked for, latex gloves, $107, hand sanitizer, $173, police department, $622,220. For reimbursement of the majority of police department wages during COVID-19, March through August 2020. Also, searching the web, I discovered municipalities from across the country and state who utilize CARES Act funding for frontline workers, wages, and other PPE and equipment, such as Sandusky, Ohio, $757,000, and CARES Act should partially negate the massive shortfall Sandusky government faces in its everyday operating budget. All the CARES Act funds will offset expenses that normally expense from the general fund. Washington County, Canonsburg Police, PA. Among the expenses the CARES Act grant will cover in police department will be payroll, operating costs, overtimes, and salaries up to the amount of $1.93 million. City of Bethlehem, $800,000 for new fire apparatus from CARES Act. City of Chambersburg, $808,000 for Chambersburg Fire and Ambulance Service payroll. Kettering, Ohio, $3 million for police and firefighters as a result of the COVID-19 CARES Act. Modesto, $7.5 million from CARES Act. Council approved $4.7 million for fire and $2.7 million for police, primarily for salaries and benefits to the police officers and firefighters because they are essential public safety positions. The list could go on and on, but as you have heard, I think and I feel we missed the boat on possibly obtaining over $1 million in this CARES Act funding. We are facing a projected shortfall which could exceed the projected $500,000. We're in the final year of Act 47, 5-year contract, which means all 3 bargaining units in the city of Altoona are up for negotiations this year. When we sit down at the table in an honest negotiation, it will be put on the back of the workers who serve the city day in and day out to make up for this shortfall through possible staffing cuts, pay freezes, and restructuring, among many other alternatives. So to finish up, I have to ask as we employees, along with the citizens of Altoona, a more detailed answer. Why wasn't the CARES grant applied for to support the workforce in the city of Altoona? I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you. Kim, are there any other callers? Okay, seeing none, we will close the floor for public comment and move on to the resolutions.
Item A is approving the minutes of the Altoona City Council meeting held Monday, December 2nd, 2020. Item B is approving the designation of technical officers, inspectors, and other employees of the Altoona Fire Department by Fire Chief Tim Heilman as set forth herein for the purpose of enforcing compliance with the International Fire Code 2015 edition adopted and codified as Chapter 358 of the City of Altoona Code of Ordinances and acknowledging the establishment of policies and procedures regarding enforcement of same. Item C is reappointing Barbara Kuhlman to the Altoona Water Authority for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item D is reappointing Chris Kerwin to the Altoona Housing Authority for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item E is appointing Colin Reinhardt to the Altoona Parking Authority to fill the unexpired term of Bruce Johnstone. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2025. Item F is appointing the following individuals to the Altoona City Planning Commission. Reappointing Dave Albright for a term of 4 years. Said term expiring the first Monday of January 2025. Reappointing Chuck Myers for a term of 4 years. Said term expiring the first Monday of January 2025. Appointing Larry Bellato to fill the unexpired term of Jennifer Mikulizik. Said term expiring the first Monday of January 2023. Item G is appointing Richard Fiore Jr. to the Altoona Redevelopment Authority for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item H is reappointing Monica Klatt of UPMC Altoona to the AMED Authority for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item I is appointing Scott Cessna, reappointing Scott Cessna to the Amtran Authority. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item J is appointing the following individuals to the Code Appeals Board. Reappointing Larry Field for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Appointing James Patopa for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Item K is appointing the following individuals to the Civil Service Board. Reappointing Don Belzy for a term of, I believe that's going to be 4 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2025. And reappointing Ted Beam as an alternate member for a term of 4 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2025. Item L is appointing Joe Eccles to the Electrical and Plumbing Examiners Board for a term of 4 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2025. Item M is reappointing Horace McAnuff to the Zoning Hearing Board for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2025. Is there any additions, deletions, or anything that needs to be pulled for a separate vote? Hearing none, I'll call for the consent vote. Vice Mayor Butterbaugh,
Yes.
Councilman Kashadi,
Yes.
Councilman Carper,
Yes.
Councilman Ickes.
Yes, but I must abstain from item I.
Okay. Councilwoman Jordan is absent. Councilman Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pacifico.
Yes.
And that's going to be the consent vote excluding item I, which is going to pass 6-0. And now I will do the, excuse me, I'm sorry, 5-0. Thank you. 5-0. And I'll take the vote on item I. Item I is appointing, reappointing Scott Cessna to the Amtram Authority for a term of 5 years. Said term shall expire the first Monday of January 2026. Vice Mayor Butterbaugh,
Yes.
Councilman Kashadi,
Yes.
Councilman Carper,
Yes.
Councilman Ickes is abstaining.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jordan is absent. Councilman Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pacifico,
Yes.
and the vote passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to city manager updates. Ken?
Okay, well, I'll reserve any comments regarding the CARES Act funding issues raised by Mr. Miller until the council's had a chance to weigh in. But on the COVID-19 front, as noted in the email, our first responders expected their first vaccinations this month, but the daily death toll in the United States topped 4,000 for the first time, and we've reached a cumulative total of over 375,000 Americans who've died of COVID. And I think Chief Heilman would want me to reemphasize is that we're getting ever closer to the finish line. And much like it would be tragic to die of dehydration within steps of water, now would be the wrong time to let our guard down. So certainly encourage members of the public and as we require our staff to do, to keep yourself safe and try to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. We've turned the corner into a new year, so we're starting the financial process of closing out the previous budget year, beginning the new budget year. As you can imagine, having the holiday break, things are busy. We're seeing an uptick in property-related complaints. I've had some flow to me from council, so as is my practice, I try to reach out individually to property owners to encourage them to address outstanding code violations and issues. We're settling into managing the transportation center. There's naturally going to be a few growing pains with that, but we're ironing out the wrinkles and getting used to that. We have nothing to report yet on the grant funding applications that we've made to renovate the space. On behalf of Chief Freeling, there are still occasionally scam phone calls. So to members of the public, if you get a call from someone saying they're representing the Altoona Police Department and want money, that's a scam. That our police department nor any city organizations, or at least police and fire, directly involved in any kind of solicitation or fundraising. So we'd encourage citizens not to fall for that scam, but they're continuing to bounce around out there. One of the things that the council dealt with last year was the progress on the Puritan Silk Mill project, where there was a milestone, which is soon forthcoming, about an extension of time to complete the project. We've verified that the exterior renovations are substantially complete, which was the work necessary to trigger the next phase of the extension. So there's nothing further to do on that. Be reaching out to you this week to put together what I expect is going to be a fairly full agenda for the January work session. We have a number of issues to discuss that have been stacked up, particularly in land use. With the transition of our staff and community development, we're having to sort of reinvent some of the processes. But in the spring, particularly as we're able to meet in person with people, we hope to have a meeting with developers to begin a dialogue to talk about how our policies, practices, and procedures work. So we're facilitating the redevelopment process as opposed to being obstructionist. We also, I think, have talked to ABCD and other stakeholders in economic development. Think at some point would be good in the spring to get the council together with entities invested in economic development to have a philosophical discussion about what you see as the role of municipal government in that process, because we naturally have the resource question of not having much in the way of resources for economic development, but there's some larger philosophical questions about what we should be doing in that space. So it's been a really busy and crazy first part of January for the new year, both on the local and the federal level. Are there any questions or anything I can answer for the council?
Nope, none from me. Thank you.
For the record, the consent vote excluding item I passed 6-0.
Yes.
And with Councilwoman Jordan absent, and then the vote on item I where Councilman Ickes abstained and Councilwoman Jordan was absent passed 5-0.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor and Council discussion items. Councilman Carver,
Nothing at this time, thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Kelly.
Yeah, I think it bears a little discussion to go, I'm sorry. Certainly I think, we heard from the president of our firefighters union, and I think it bears a little discussion. And certainly if I was the president of one of our local unions in this city, I would raise my questions. So I appreciate Pat doing his job as president of the firefighters union. But there's supposed to be an announcement Thursday, the president-elect's stimulus package, which I presume there'll be monies in there for states and municipalities as part of that, because that's supposed to be trillions and trillions of dollars. So just to go back and look at the CARES Act funding, when we discussed that, our real priority was to make sure that AMED got their money, and also the Rec Commission, because both of them were really hit hard by that. Both of them really affect the city as well. I mean, certainly it doesn't affect our city payroll, but they are entities that we appoint to, and they take care of the city. And AMED had actually asked for over $2 million, if I'm not mistaken, and they got, Ken, what was the figure on those?
They applied for 2.5 and
Okay.
received 1.5.
Yeah, and we worked to support that, did letters of support. I know the mayor
Yes.
was in touch with the county commissioners, and Mayor, we appreciate that, because I know certainly AMED needed that. But let's just go back, and Ken, would you mind reiterating what the criteria was for, or the criteria was for the CARES Act funding?
Yes, I mean, the act which was adopted in March 27 of last year, allowed entities to apply for reimbursement for expenses directly related to COVID-19. Now, we received numerous calls, information from our advocate organizations like PML, the National League of Cities, and it kept reemphasizing, and clearly, because it's been a bone of contention at the congressional level, this was not about aid to state and local governments. This was about aids to businesses and individuals who'd been impacted by COVID. When we looked at the criteria, we had a very small amount of direct expenses related to COVID, and we were able to identify grant funding sources through FEMA and PEMA that would cover about the $60,000 that we directly spend. So as we read the grant application guidelines, we didn't think the money that we had was eligible. One of the criteria was it had to be money that was not budgeted in the budget that had been most recently adopted before March 27th. So in essence, you had to show you were spending money that wasn't part of your adopted budget, and we came in under budget for the year at the end of 2020. So we didn't spend more money than we budgeted for.
So we did not have a budget shortfall for 2020?
We did not.
Okay, and what were our expenditures COVID related?
About $60,000.
$60K.
And this guidance, just for the record, came from the United States Treasury.
It did.
Yeah, that was, that was part of the discussion that we had all part of last summer in lobbying Congress to try and, change the restrictions that were put on the CARES funds.
Mayor, I'm
And-
sorry to interrupt you, but when you say "we," you're talking, is this the
Yeah, I'm
National
sorry.
League of Cities or the
Both. This
Pennsylvania?
is
Okay.
the state Pennsylvania Municipal League and through the National League of Cities. Through the Pennsylvania League, we had a few calls throughout the summer with the Pennsylvania congressional delegation, and then we did a few through the National League with different members from different states. But the whole point of it was that that money was never intended to be used to replace lost revenues, and that was something that we, on a call with Senator Toomey last summer, he was adamantly opposed to new money, but he was in favor of relaxing the restrictions that would have allowed the CARES funds that were already put out there to be used in ways that help municipalities replace some lost revenues and that sort of thing. However, they never took those restrictions off, and the CARES money relatively stayed unchanged as far as what the uses of that were for. So hopefully if we get another round this time around, it would be directed specifically to municipalities, because, you know, as we saw, the state, you know, they got their portion of CARES money that they just distributed to the counties because it was easier for them to give it to 67 different entities versus 2,560 different entities, you know, and that was the issue that we had. You know, they controlled, the county basically controlled how much money was given out then. You know, we got $11 million, and initially they allocated $800,000 to local governments, you know. So when you have 20 plus municipalities in the county plus our, you know, subsidiary entities such as AMED and Central Blair Rec, that's not a lot of money to go around to everybody. So, yeah.
And the Blair Rec, Blair Central Rec received a lot less than what they had requested.
They
is
did.
my-
I think it was only about $20,000, but they had substantially greater than that losses in program revenue. A good deal of that organization's budget depends on running programs where people pay, you know, or parents or participants pay fees. With everything stopped, they just lost the ability to generate revenue, as did many of our local businesses that were shut down and affected by this.
Hopefully, if there is another round of funding that goes to municipalities, you know, they'll use something like a CDBG formula to figure out the direct payments, and, you know, that we don't have to fight with the county or with the state to get our share, or what, you know. But it's a fight we're going to continue.
And anytime we have one-time monies, I mean, I think this is just a principle of sound fiscal management is to not spend one-time money and increase overall operating expenses. So if you get a one-time influx of money and that allows you to pay salaries or benefits, when that one-time money runs out, you're kind of where Altoona is often sitting, which is, you know, not having enough money to pay the bills.
Yeah. Plus, with the money that the county got, you know, they controlled where it went to. There was no input from us. You know, we weren't a part of that discussions on how it was going to be. And I'm not saying this to take a shot at the county. I'm just saying that, you know, they were responsible. They were in charge of how it got distributed, and they chose to distribute it and do it the way that they did. So, you know, that's up to them, and that was their right to do. But, you know, we were not included in that as part of that discussion. You know, so I think out of the money that got distributed there, I think that, you know, there could have been maybe some more conversations with local governments involved.
Well, I just find it hard to believe that if our COVID-related expenses as the largest municipality in the county were only $60,000, I mean, do the math on that. That just, you know, I'm going to guess that at some point there'll be some auditing of these funds, and if it was, you know, you received the grant money and didn't need it, I would presume you'd have to pay it back. I mean, the federal deficit is big enough as it is, and it's going to get a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I feel bad for my grandkids.
And our departments were budgeted. The coverage for the fire department was budgeted. The police department was already budgeted, and that was one of the criteria as mentioned by our manager tonight. And we were very concerned, and there was quite the collaborative effort going into this. We worked with every city department, everybody involved, including council, mayor, manager, and each department had put a lot of research into this, and everybody worked together. And after getting our heads together, we realized AMED could be in real trouble here, and they are a vital part of the first response system in the city of Altoona. And thankfully, they were able to receive some money. So the way I see it, it wasn't like we didn't apply for money. We just wanted to make sure that our support went to AMED, because had they not been supported, they could very well have gone under. And so how many lives are saved because of the decision that was made to support AMED and to make sure they got their much needed funds so that they could keep serving our citizens.
If our regional EMS provider was financially insolvent, that would have a tremendous negative impact on the city, not
Yes.
only as a community, but as an organization. They provide a critically valuable service to this community, and ethically, this is all taxpayer money. In some cases, it'll be my great-grandchildren's taxpayers' money because of how much debt that we've accrued. But just because we can spend $1 doesn't mean we should spend $1. I mean, that's a bedrock principle of fiscal conservatism. And I think that I've been a city manager, a county administrator for 20 years, and there are moments I'll remember as being incredibly proud. And when this governing body said the money should go to the people who need it the most, I felt like I was in exactly the right place, because that's the kind of leadership that I think is going to be incredibly important to Altoona no matter what happens, is that we shouldn't take advantage of something. We should look to the big picture and not just to ourselves, but to our community stakeholders. So for that, I don't think, at least in my mind, no one can second guess the motives of the council in trying to act in the best interest of the community.
Jesse, what's the federal deficit at right now?
For 2020, I think it was a little over $3 trillion.
That's just for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it was 15% of GDP.
Well, I mean, I heard on one of the business channels that the stimulus package they're talking about, that there'll be further details on Thursday, is going to be trillions of dollars.
Well, this one was, several trillion.
Yeah, so this is going to be bigger than that probably, and so I mean, we'll have to look and see what's in with that.
The initial part of the CARES Act that was $2 trillion, and then we did CARES Act 2 through infinity, was $2 trillion. If you spend $1 a second, excluding interest, it would take a little over 63,000 years to pay back $2 trillion.
I'm sorry, say that again.
If you pay $1 a second, excluding interest, it would take a little over 63,500 years to pay $2 trillion. So this isn't going to be paid back by your grandkids.
Councilman Butterball, do you have anything? I'm sorry, Councilman Kelly Reed done.
I guess I am.
Oh,
Mayor.
no,
Thanks.
we'll let
I'm-
him finish. I'm in no rush.
As a cantankerous old man up here, I thank you. So,
As a co-cantankerous old man. But yeah, I appreciate the discussion, and actually I believe our city employees have done wonderful work during this COVID situation that we've been going through, all of our departments, and I'm really proud of how well our staff and employees have handled all of this, and I really believe that all the decisions that have been made, whether it's the money decisions or other decisions, it's really been a working together effort from day one here, and I really think everybody should be commended for that. And I know the biggest part of our decision back when we did decide what we wanted to do about going for this county allocation and helping AMED was the public health and safety, and seeing that the first responders over at AMED were able to keep operating and keep doing the great job they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kashadi,
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Akis,
Nothing. Thanks, Mayor.
questions from the media? Bill?
Oh, did you have something?
I can wait till Bill's done.
Okay.
Just
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, probably after.
Thank you. Does anybody on council have any thoughts specifically about Logan Township's getting that $622,000?
I'm not gonna say anything about, I don't know what their needs are, so I can't speak.
And I haven't seen their application, so.
And something we need to keep in mind, we are a third-class city. And so the rules we operate under are different than than townships and boroughs too. So that could play a big role in the decisions that one municipality makes or another. And so as a third-class city, there are different state rules that apply to us. So sometimes terms are more stringent up on a third-class city than they may be on a township.
Anybody else? That's all I have. Thank you.
Very quickly before we adjourn, I know as part of this transition process with me as solicitor, codes court, that's kind of something that Attorney Stantz have been covering for the city until this transition phase. At this juncture, as it pertains to, code court, the magistrate's offices, I mean, I'm ready to take that over. I know Dan's been sworn in as a special DA for the criminal matters, and he's got some of those pending. It makes sense to have him continue with those at this juncture. But as far as, the code court, which is anywhere from, 1 to 2 different days a month, I mean, I'm ready to step in there and handle that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we have an executive session coming up on Thursday. Is it okay if we discuss
fine.
this amongst council there?
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
thank you. If there's nothing further, then the meeting is adjourned.